Welcome to another episode of the Caribbean Blockchain Network project interviews. Today we have Mark Lloyd, Managing Director of Dominium, and Esther Dekker, the Property Director of Dominium. Welcome, Mark and Esther.
Thank you.
Hi, Ruben.
All right. So, before we get to the questions about what Dominium is and stuff, can you tell a little bit about the history, your history and entrepreneurial journey, and how did you get into blockchain?
Okay, shall I go first? All right.
Yes.
So I've been in business for 30 years. I've developed a number of companies in that time. I think probably 6 companies I've developed in that space of time. Seems to have gone very, very quickly, although it was 30 years. But and those have covered various industries. So from domestic services through to utilities, through to telecommunications and property. I'm a property investor. I have a large portfolio in the UK. I also teach other investors and developers how to do it.
All right.
How to get involved in blockchain. Interesting. It's through someone I knew who's got a lot of ideas and wanted to implement them. And blockchain for me 9 months ago was very new. So had a steep learning curve, and but the project now we're fully committed, and lots of exciting things about to happen.
All right. Thank you, Mark.
For me, well, I have a rental company in the Netherlands, so we rent out real estate for property investors, and we help and advise property investors with buying property. And we also do the management of all the properties, and we do it in Rotterdam. And it's the same story as Mark. 9 months ago, Dominium came to me to ask if I was interested in being the property director of Dominium, and blockchain was at the time very new for me. So the last 9 months, I had to do a lot of investigation about blockchain. And the more I get to learn about blockchain, the more enthusiastic I am about it.
All right. Thank you, Esther. And what drove you both to be part of Dominium, or how did Dominium kind of came out of existence?
For me, it is the part where Dominium can solve a lot of problems that we have in the real estate market today, and also a lot of problems that I'm facing every day. So I can't actually wait before Dominium is full in operation.
All right.
Because I think we will have a much better market once we can put all the real estate on the blockchain.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I think I come from it from a property angle, the same as Esther, and the blockchain aspect of it is, I think, the next stage in property, because the property world is antiquated. It's not just in the UK where I am, Netherlands, throughout the world, it's an antiquated system, and I think the blockchain will bring that into the 21st century. So from an investor perspective, what I'm looking at is a complete revolution of the way property transactions are done.
Okay, and now for let's say somebody that's just new to real estate, how is a traditional real estate investment and management work nowadays currently? Can you explain that?
Very slow. The current real estate market is still a bit old-fashioned. So processors are still not digitalized, and that also means that that it is possible that you can have a lot of discussions about things that aren't said or are said, or and once you can put everything on the blockchain, then you don't have the discussion anymore, and everything will be a lot more transparent. Also, in the Netherlands, one big problem that I have is that the current market is not transparent. We don't know who is giving us information about properties. We don't know if it's the right information, if it's the latest information. And I think if you can put everything on the blockchain, that will solve a big part of that problem. And also we can work far more efficient, because a lot of links that are in the process right now, so think about notaries, real estate agents, they won't be necessary in the toekomst unless, of in the future, unless a property owner wants to use them.
Okay.
Can also work a lot faster.
All right, thank you. And Mark, do you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I echo everything Esther said. What happens is happening in the Netherlands is, I think, throughout the world. And from an investor perspective, I think what the exciting elements of it for me are, one, the property market is very illiquid, and when I put money into a project, it's then stuck there. And what we're going to do with the platform is that will help create liquidity for investors and a means of raising funds. So it's an extension of crowdfunding, but much better in my opinion.
All right, and can you kind of name some more improvements that blockchain will bring to the real estate space or industry, according to Dominium?
Well, I mean, I think Esther's mentioned a fair chunk of it, but looking at it from the authorities' perspective, so that the governmental authorities, blockchain brings a complete transparency to the whole system. A lot of the land parts throughout the world are controlled by governments, and quite understandably so. But it is so antiquated, heavily manual input, and in large parts of the world also, it's just down to paper deeds. You still have paper deeds, and I think in the Caribbean that's quite prominent as well. Whereas in the UK we have a land registry that's controlled by the government. If I buy a property today, for example, when it completes today, it will take up to 3 months for it actually to appear in the government's registry. Now, blockchain, that would be instantaneous. It's a complete transaction, and what I'm looking forward to is the timescales condensing. I think I'm sure in the Netherlands it's very similar, Germany, throughout Europe, and other parts of the world where property transactions can take quite a long time to complete. What I want to see is, I buy a property, I want to buy a property today, and that is completed within, let's say, 48 hours would be fantastic, but within a week would be great.
Okay. So, you're saying then Dominium is kind of using blockchain technology in that sense, or to improve the real estate industry.
Absolutely.
And I've seen different real estate projects on blockchain coming up recently. So what differentiates Dominium from, for example, Propi, Real, or Realisto, all these real estate blockchain projects that has come up in the last couple of months or in the last year?
There's a lot of them that have appeared in the market over the past year, as you say, and I think the difference with Dominium is firstly we are investors first and foremost, and we've come into the blockchain industry, and so the platform, what we've done is we've backed the platform with our own assets. Max Property Group, which is part of, we have one in the Netherlands, one in Germany, one in the UK, and those assets are going onto the Dominium platform as we speak. So they are the test case in terms of putting onto the blockchain and everything else. So we're quite unique in that aspect. We don't have to prove the case. We've already got it. It's most of the real estate projects I see out there, they're looking to raise funds to do something. Well, we don't need to do that. We've already got the assets there. They're going into the blockchain as we speak, and we are testing our own assets on the chain, which will then be opened up next year to others.
All right. And Esther, would you like to add something, or?
No, I totally agree with what Mark is saying.
Okay. And can you explain for a user, for example, or somebody that's going to use the Dominium platform, what functionalities does the Dominium platform have for the user?
It depends what kind of user you are. If I'm looking from my perspective, I work a lot with tenants, real estate owners. So then you have to think of making a rental contract through blockchain, making a buyer's contract through blockchain, doing all kind of management task by blockchain. So from my perspective, that kind of things. But also, if you are if you want to like build a big project, if we look at the Netherlands and in Rotterdam, there are a lot of things going on. And in case you are a constructor or something like that, and you want to build a big tower, you can also put it on Dominium. And it's like what Mark told us, sort of crowdfunding, where you can find other investors to create the tower together.
All right. Thank you. Mark?
I think it's also worth pointing out that, we want to bring this down to the lowest common denominator. In other words, you would be able to invest from as little as £1, €1, $1. At the moment, there are so many barriers to people actually doing these kind of things with high, in the UK, I think minimum £10,000-20,000, probably similar in the States, and certainly in Europe as well, where the average person in the street can't get involved in these things. Our aim is to bring that completely down and make it totally available, literally, to the entire world.
All right, some ambition. And all right, I've also read that Dominium is not built upon Ethereum, and it's built upon Ardor. It's going to be a child chain of Ardor, to be exact. So why did the team of Dominium decide to go on Ardor and not Ethereum, for example?
Okay, we'll answer this in non-technical because both Esther and I are not really part of the tech team. Well, I mean, so Ethereum is a great platform, but it does suffer from a few issues, and one of those primarily is blockchain bloat. Now, I know Ethereum is looking to try and address that, but the way that Ardor works, it doesn't have that. The simplest way of putting it is that the bloat to issues, and for those that don't understand what that means, so essentially when you transact on Ethereum, the time it takes to actually for that transaction to appear can be quite some time. Because of the nature of the way Ardor is built and the child chain that we're operating on, that doesn't happen. Just can't happen. So we're already in the place where Ethereum wants to be, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yes, that makes sense. Thank you for your answer. And looking at all of these aspects, what is like the main vision of Dominium? As you already said, you wanted kind of to lower the barriers for smaller investors, and it's also a better, I guess, way for investors to manage their portfolios. Do you have better explanation of the vision of Dominium, long term and short term?
I think if you look at the vision of Dominium, we are trying to facilitate everybody who's working with real estate or investing in real estate to make it possible for those people to do business peer-to-peer without losing money to third parties. I think that's the main point. And also creating a market that is transparent and efficient and all decentralized.
Okay.
Yeah.
So opening, also what Mark told us before, opening the market to the whole world, also people that doesn't have millions to invest in real estate.
Yes. And now let's go to a little bit to the investing part. Now, Dominium exists. The way to use Dominium platform is is with DOM tokens. With DOM tokens. Can you explain how these are created and exchanged? kind of a little bit of the tokenomics behind the entire Dominium platform?
Okay, so the tokens are needed to transact on the platform. So you've got DOM token is a utility token.
Yes.
And so, by what I mean by transact on the token, on the platform, for example, if you want to list a property, you will need DOM tokens to do that. If you want to create a rental contract, you will need DOM tokens to do that. If you want to sell a property, you'll need to use DOM tokens. So they're all there to help transact within the platform. Then there will be, once we start to get properties loaded onto the platform and potentially investment funds, then there's potential there for securitization of those assets into security tokens, which is a different type of token to what we're launching with, which is the standard utility token.
Yes. And how will these tokens be distributed?
Well, so currently we have, if you register on the platform, you'll get some tokens. You can subscribe. We've just about a week or so ago, we launched our pre-ITO round. So you can currently get tokens at about 80% discount to what the full token rate is. And there's still time to do that. We are 24th of August today, so there's another week to actually get those heavily discounted tokens. Then when we launch and open up the child chain on our door, that's when the tokens will be tradable through the various exchanges.
Okay. And now you said Dominium is kind of backed by investment funds or companies already that have, so you already have your own funds. And so why are you doing an ICO or an ITO, and why not go for a conventional way of raising funds for making this project, such as an IPO or other crowdsourcing methods?
Well, I mean, standard ways of raising money are quite lengthy, involve a lot of cost to the company involved. So if you're going to do a traditional IPO, for example, substantial amount of money needed there to actually just to get that going. So we saw this as a much quicker route to market. It's the modern way of doing things. I think a lot of companies are now moving over to this method of raising money. It's more open to more people because an IPO is generally institutional investors. If you launch a company onto the stock market, so an IPO, for those that understand the initial product offering, when you launch that on the stock market, it's generally the institutions are the only people that can buy shares. Now, by launching an ITO, initial token offering, then that's open to everybody. Anybody that registers on the platform goes through the KYC procedures, because we're a regulated platform, so you need to go through, you need to prove who you are. You can buy, you can invest on the platform. It's simple as that. So it makes it much more open already compared to traditional methods of raising money.
Okay. And why an ITO? What are the funds going to be used for?
We are going to use the funds to buy real estate properties in the Netherlands, the UK, and in Germany. And that properties are going to be rented out. And we are going to use the rent to develop the platform, and also to do, when the platform is finished, also to do the maintenance of the platform. So that means that there will always be some amount of money to maintain the platform. So once the investment money, if we have invested all the money that we got, then we will always have the rent to maintain the platform.
Okay, so
which will make us fairly unique in the market. I don't think there are any other companies like us out there at the moment that will be totally self-sufficient because of the way we structured it and the way that we are investing the money to ensure the longevity of the platform.
Yeah. So that's, you just kind of explained your business model, or is there something more to add to the business model?
No, that's about it.
Okay.
It's pretty straightforward.
All right. Now, let's say, for example, I'm a foreign real estate company. I'm maybe in the Caribbean, for example. How can I benefit from Dominium by using the Dominium platform? Or what added values will it bring for me?
Well, I suppose it really depends on which area of the real estate you're involved in. So if I talk at it from an investor perspective, it could be raising funds for development. So let's say I'm going to build a hotel and I want to raise funds. The Dominium platform is attracting tens of thousands of people onto it already, and we haven't really launched. Further down the road, once we've got a few 100,000 users on the platform, raising money then becomes a much simpler prospect for any investor developer. That's just one aspect, but there are several. If I've got a portfolio of properties, which I have in the UK, now the biggest issue is there. I've got equity locked in that portfolio, which is I can't access. I could potentially load those onto the platform and invite other investors to invest, which then releases equity. So they can have a portion perhaps of my portfolio and releases equity back to me. So I've then got access to cash that I can use to invest more.
Okay.
But that's only just two aspects of it. Esther, I'm sure, can expand on the other areas.
Well, I already talked about a more efficient way of working. Let's say if you are a real estate investor and you have your own private portfolio of about 10 houses, if you put all the houses on the blockchain and you are going to do your management also on the blockchain, you have a very big database of very useful information. So let's pretend that you want to sell your portfolio within 10 years. You can offer so much more information to the market about your portfolio, because we can see everything. We can see if the tenants are paying on time, are the tenants really living there, what kind of management has been done the last few years. So it will be very interesting for other parties to buy that portfolio instead of another portfolio where we have to guess if the tenants are actually living there. Yeah. So that will be a very big benefit if you look at the market where I am working in.
All right. Thank you for your explanation.
Just add, I think that's common throughout the world. When you go to buy a property, wherever you are in the world, there's always historic information that's just never available. If you're approaching a vendor and they have a list of questions that they've got to answer, let's say, when was the electrical installation last checked? When was the boiler last checked? If you ask me that kind of question about my house, I wouldn't have a clue. I'd have to try and find the paperwork somewhere.
Yeah.
Whereas if everything is recorded on the blockchain, it's there. It's totally transparent, so you know straight away. So it's that from an investor perspective, from a standard residential buyer's perspective, that information is really important because it helps them understand what additional money they may need to spend on that property or not, as the case may be.
Yeah. So this will all be visible on the Dominium platform.
Totally.
Okay. Now, how will the governance be of a Dominium, or how is the governance? Is it more like a community model, or is it more a traditional business model? If you know what I'm trying to explain. Yeah. So how will things be managed? Who is behind making decisions on the Dominium platform, for example, for future changes and those stuff?
Okay, so we have a team of people. I'm trying to think, last count how many we've got, but about 10.
We have like a few directors and a lot of advisors.
Yeah.
So each within different roles, whether it's marketing, tech, property, and so on. So that that's just the kind of headline, if you like. But we also have quite a large community. Within that we've created throughout the world. I mean, we are currently, I think it's represented in 160 countries. We are translated into 16 languages, and that's increasing daily. We've just literally this week translated Chinese, Vietnamese, and Bo, I think it was.
Yeah.
Nigeria. So that's expanding all the time as we look for country ambassadors, obviously, of which you are one for us as well in your area. So
Yes.
that's going to keep expanding as more people hear about Dominium, learn about what we're doing, and actually realize, you know what, this is actually a project that's going to work and is working, and they want to be part of it.
All right. And does the community have a say, for example, in decisions that will be made for the platform?
Interesting one.
Yeah. Well, they can vote for the charity.
Okay, but is there no get open votings system?
At this moment, I have to say no. But we're still developing, so we can say at this moment how the future will be.
Yeah.
But well, maybe we are open to voting in the future. But at this moment, our goal is to raise the money from the ITO and the pre-ITO to build the platform. And once the platform is finished, then that will be the next step.
Okay.
Yeah, I think what has helped though, Ruben, is that as we've been testing the platform over the past months this year, we have had a lot of input from the community on things that haven't quite worked well, or little bugs that we hadn't spotted ourselves. So that's been really, really useful in helping us get things fixed and getting the platform to where we are now.
Yeah. All right. And what is the regulatory aspect that has to be taken in account when launching such a platform? Because you're going to kind of have a borderless platform, right?
Yeah, well, the initial parts of the platform, so transacting on the platform, whether it's a property to sell, to rent, will be governed by local laws. There isn't necessarily regulatory aspects that we need to comply with on the platform centrally, but in those particular countries, there will be certain aspects that will be applied. So in the Netherlands and the UK, if you rent out a property, there are certain rules that apply, as in Germany and so on. So those don't necessarily affect the platform. We are more of an intermediary in that sense. So I'm sure you've got property portals in your country, as they were in the UK and Europe, where people can advertise a property for sale. So that in that sense, it's going to be very, very similar. That doesn't require regulatory approval. Where it does, and this is one of the things that we're going to standardize, and also where some of the ITO money will be used for, is to create standardized documentation for the various jurisdictions around the world to make sure that when somebody wants to, let's say, create a property fund, that all of that regulatory material has already been done by us. So they can come operate under an umbrella license. So launching something for them, and rather than taking 6 to 9 months, can be done very, very quickly.
Yeah.
So that's really where the regulatory aspects come in.
All right. And what third parties are you kind of eliminating with Dominium? Because you just said you're going to become an intermediary.
Think about notaries, real estate agents,
I think there's potential to eliminate quite a lot of unnecessary cost. And that could be, as Esther said there, agents, notaries, solicitors.
Registration companies, things like that. But it's not, I won't say that it's our goal to eliminate them, because you can also think about a property investor that is already in his 70s. It is very likely that target group doesn't want to be involved in this whole digitalized world. So they will be more likely to cooperate with their real estate agent and also link their real estate agent to the platform. So we also have to think about that some third parties will get another role in this whole circle.
All right. And so then what is the vision, or what is your vision for future real estate? How will Dominium be part of this? Is it going to be a disruptive change, or is it just going to be another alternative?
I really hope it's going to be a disruptive change, because we already talked about the transparency and the efficiency, and I think there are two, also liquidity. That are actually three main problems that we have in real estate. And if Dominium is able to solve that problems, or then it will be a very, very big change in the real estate market.
Okay, Mark, would you add something?
Yeah, I think we're probably the first mover in this particular aspect of the real estate market, and so there will undoubtedly be others that will come along. There's no question about that. I think in a competitive market, others will come along, and they'll no doubt learn from us. So I think the real estate market is huge. $220 trillion. It's massive, more than all the gold, Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies in the world to date.
Yeah.
So it's a massive market, and I think if we can make even a small dent on that, it's going to be huge. We're not looking to, as Esther said there, we're not looking to put people out of jobs. We have a more efficient system that some people will use. Hopefully a large number of people will decide to use, because it is that much more efficient. But the agents and those, they will adapt, and I'm pretty sure what will happen is they'll want to work with us.
Okay. All right. And is there anything else you want to share with the audience regarding maybe the ITO, or any other advice that you want to tell the audience?
I will advise everybody to join our platform, because it really is a platform for the future.
Okay. Mark?
I think it's difficult to say too much, but I personally think for a lot of people this will be life changing. If you think of where Bitcoin was when it launched, I can't remember how many years ago it was now. We are kind of at that stage. Only we're in the real estate market, and our platform is backed through real estate. That's how we're going to develop the platform. So it's kind of quite a bit different to Bitcoin, but we're at that kind of same kind of phase where they were when they first launched.
Yes.
So there's a lot of opportunity there. As I mentioned earlier, there's a week left to get involved in the pre-ITO round, when you're going to get the tokens at an 80% discount. They will go up in a week's time. So if you're going to do something, do it now. Register on the platform. I'm sure you'll provide them with a link, Ruben. So get involved, guys. Don't miss out.
All right. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Esther. And yes.